Hi again. This afternoon I'm going to acquaint you with some of the tools that you'll be needing. You picked up a bag of supplies from me, and I want to go over the things that are in that bag of supplies. First of all, you're going to have a bag of naturally dug micaceous clay. This clay was dug in the northern part of New Mexico near Ojo Caliente in a town called Itaca, up in the mountains in the Carson National Forest. So I'm going to be showing you how to process that clay. Not right now, but later on. And this is for your own benefit. It's not a project for class, so you don't need to do it to turn in a project on processing clay. But in the end, if you do proceed with it, you'll have yourself some wonderful natural clay. This other bag is the clay that you bought at the bookstore. This is the commercial micaceous clay, and that's what you'll be working with to make your own pots. We just don't have enough time to spend making the clay and processing it. So we'll work with the commercial clay. Also in your bag, you got a piece of plastic. So the plastic will be used to cover up your works in progress. So this is a pot that's in progress. I can wrap plastic around it, cover it really good so that no air gets in there, and that will keep your pot from drying out. Okay, so that's really important. This is just one piece. If you're working on multiple pieces, you'll need to get more plastic. And it needs to be this really soft, pliable plastic. We get it either at Home Depot or Lowe's or the dollar store. You can get them in 3 packs. They are plastic drop cloths, 1 mil, so very thin. Okay, so also in your packet, you got 2 pieces of screen and 1 piece of sandpaper. This will get you started, but if you need more, you can also go to Home Depot. The screen is, it's for drywall sanding, and it comes in different grades. So the higher the number, the finer the grade is. So you've got one that's really fine and one that's a little less fine. These are for sanding. And then when you get to the point where you need something more fine for sanding, you would use the sandpaper. Now, primitive people used sandstone, and if you have access to sandstone, it's wonderful to sand with. It works just like sandpaper. Okay, so then you also got some, or at least one, metal scraper. And this is what is the scrape, what you do the scraping with in the coil scrape and sanding and polishing method. So some of you got a pin tool. Some of you got a scraper that is pointed. And if you got the pointed scraper, you probably didn't get a pin tool. So I just wanted you to have something that you could cut with that's sharp and pointy. These are coconut shell scrapers. These are used for scraping the inside of your pots. Now, if you have a big one, it may be too big. If you have a small one, it may not be big enough for scraping a larger area. But you can always use a spoon. A spoon works just as well as a scraper. Now, these scrapers are made out of coconut shell. In Acoma, when I learned how to do this kind of pottery, they use gourds old dried gourds that were cut into shapes that worked. And you can cut them into any shapes. And actually, I have seen people use plastic milk cartons and things like that and cut plastic scrapers as well. So let's see, what else did you get in your packet? I think that's pretty much it. So the things that you did not get in your, oh, some of you did get a little baggie of mica, some of you didn't. So the mica is used the same way that you flour a baking pan for cooking in. So making a pot, we put our pots into a mold, and that mold is called a puki. Now, if you have a puki that's made out of plaster or out of fired clay, they're porous and the pot will release easily from a pot like this. However, if you use a mold that is made out of metal, out of ceramic, or out of plastic. I don't happen to have a plastic one here, but if you do use one of those, it's shiny, and when you put your clay in here, it's going to stick. So what you're going to do is prepare it with oil, and I just use some Pam, and you can also use any type of oil that you have, or grease. Bacon grease work fine, and I'm sure that in old times they used maybe bear grease. Who knows? So the way you would do that is spray with the oil and then pour the mica in and mix it around and pour it out. And I'll show you how to do that when we actually start to make the pots. So if you didn't get mica, you can use sand, you can use flour, you can use anything that's going to form a barrier that will protect the pot from sticking to the surface. Oh, and you also got a piece of cloth. The cloth is for rolling on. So since we're working in the kitchen, and many of you will probably have to work at your dining room table or your kitchen table or somewhere inside the house. So this will protect your table. It's brand new, so I know it's hard to get it dirty, but they do wash. And all of these tools that you have been loaned will have to be returned at the end of the semester. Not the clay, but the tools that you've borrowed. You also got a rolling pin. And then you got two handouts. One is your syllabus, which we're pretty much ignoring and working in alternate ways to keep ourselves going in this time of online teaching. The other one is a handout. I think if you remember, I talked about Felipe Ortega being my teacher, and he had this handout, and so I've included it in all of your packets so that if you run into a problem, he goes through the entire process in this handout. So check it before you make a call, before you call somebody else and say, oh gosh, I can't figure out how to do this. Check out here because he describes it in great detail, and it will bail you out of many a moment of panic. So I think that's everything that I handed to you. Now, the things that you will probably have at home are a towel and a puki. The puki is what we start the pot in. This is how we form it to hold its shape so that it doesn't collapse while we're working on it. So the only thing that you cannot have your Pookie do is come in like that. So this diameter has to be bigger than the widest part. It does have to be the widest part. All of these would work. They all have a shape where the pot could easily come out. It will not work, and you cannot use something like this because the top is narrower than the widest part. So when you go to lift your pot out, it's gonna hit the wall. So be sure when you look for a Pookie around your house that you do not pick something that closes in around the rim. You may like the shape, but it's not going to work for what we're doing. So if you have a turntable, that would be great. You don't have to have a turntable. If you have a Lazy Susan of any kind in your house, that would work great. Trying to think what else for processing the clay, if you have some kind of a sieve, would be wonderful. If you have the kind that has a handle on it that you drain something in, that would work too. But what works the best, and as Felipe mentions in his handout, window screen is the perfect thing to strain your clay with. There's a point at which we will be doing sanding. And when you're sanding, you have to have a mask. Please don't sand without a mask. And if possible, sand outside, because you do not want to get clay dust, especially mica clay dust, all over your house. It will go everywhere. And it's like having glitter. So this, of course, is the best kind of a mask. A respirator mask. This one is not quite as good, but it's pretty good. And then this one is, of course, the cheapest one, but it will work. It will keep you from getting too much dust in your lungs, and that's the important thing, because clay dust is not the best thing for your lungs. So please be aware of that and take care of your health. Brushes. You do not need to buy any brushes. I think in the first video I talked about using yucca brushes. The yucca brushes are what the Pueblo potters use. So this is a piece of narrow leaf yucca, and this is a brush that I've made out of the narrow leaf yucca. And when it comes to the time when we're ready to do decoration, I will show you how to get from here to here. So if you see, these are very fine fibers that have been released by cutting the yucca and pulling all of the green fiber off and leaving these long, narrow fibers. And when people paint with a yucca brush, they do it very differently than with the way we do. So you will have a new understanding and respect for the amazing, intricate designs that people make with these brushes, because they are very hard to manipulate. I think that's it in terms of materials. A bucket and a sponge. You probably got the sponge in your packet. And water. And you'll definitely need some big buckets if you are processing your clay. So several of them will be helpful. You can use any kind. It doesn't have to look like this. Anything that will hold clay and water and is big enough to accommodate your sieve, whatever you happen to use as a sieve. If you use this, you could probably fit it into here. If you use one of those things with a handle, you could use something small as well. There may be a few other odds and ends that you need when it comes to working on the processing of the clay. So we'll talk about those when we get to them. Okay, so I am going to close this one, and you will be able to check in again when we start working on the pot. Thank you.